A boy wakes up in a rusty elevator, confused and scared. He doesn't remember his name. He doesn't know where he is. When the doors open, he finds himself in a massive field surrounded by towering stone walls. But beyond those walls lies something even more terrifying, a shifting, deadly maze. And once night falls, no one survives. With danger lurking in every shadow and no memories to guide him, he must fight to escape before it's too late. The story begins with a boy who wakes up inside an old, rusty elevator. He has no memory of who he is or how he got there. The elevator stops and he is greeted by a group of boys in a big grassy area called the Glade. This place is surrounded by tall stone walls. Outside these walls there is a huge maze. Every month the elevator brings a new boy and supplies to the Glade. The leader of the group is a boy named Albie. He tells the new boy that his memories will return soon. Another boy named Newt, who is the second in command, explains that the maze is the only way out of the Glade. During the day, a group of boys called runners go inside the maze to look for an exit. They must return before nightfall because the maze entrance closes at night. No one has ever survived a night inside the maze. The new boy tries to enter the maze but is stopped by another boy named Gally. Newt tells him that they have been searching for a way out of the maze for 3 years. The problem is that the maze changes its shape every night, making it very hard for the runners to map an escape route. Later the new boy gets into a fight with Gally. Suddenly he remembers his name, Thomas. That night another boy named Ben, who was one of the runners, attacks Thomas. Ben was stung by a terrifying creature called a Griever, a mix of a machine and a monster that hunts in the maze at night. His infection makes him dangerous, so the others force him into the maze, knowing he will not survive. Newt tells Thomas that Albie was the first person to ever arrive in the Glade. He was alone for a whole month before anyone else showed up. One day Miho, the head runner, and Albie go into the maze to trace Ben's steps. But Albie gets stung by a Griever. At sunset Miho returns dragging Albie, but they cannot reach the entrance before it closes. Thomas runs inside the maze to help them, even though it is against the rules. That night the 3 boys fight to stay alive. Thomas manages to kill a Griever by tricking it into getting crushed by the moving walls. The next morning they return to the Glade, shocking everyone. Gally is angry at Thomas because he believes that killing a Griever has made things worse. But Newt is impressed and makes Thomas a runner. Thomas, Miho and some others go back into the maze and find a strange mechanical device inside the dead Griever. It beeps and has a number that matches a section of the maze. The next morning the elevator brings a girl, the first girl ever sent to the Glade. She seems to recognize Thomas but he does not remember her. She is holding a note that says she will be the last person to arrive. Her name is Teresa, and she carries 2 syringes filled with a mysterious liquid. They use one of the syringes on Albie, and he slowly starts recovering from the Griever sting. As his memories return he tells Thomas that he remembers him. He says Thomas was their favorite, but he does not know why Thomas was sent to the Glade. He also warns that none of them are supposed to leave. Teresa tells Thomas about the dreams she has been having. Surprisingly, Thomas has had the same dreams. They both remember being underwater while something was being done to them. In the background they heard a woman's voice saying, "Wicked is good." Later Miho shows Thomas a large map model of the maze that he has built. He tells Thomas that he has explored every part of the maze and there is no way out. But now that they have the mechanical device they might be able to find an exit. Thomas and Miho go back into the maze and discover a possible escape route, but they barely make it back to the Glade in time. That night something terrible happens. The walls that normally close at night remain open. A large group of Grievers storms into the Glade, attacking and taking several boys including Albie. The creatures finally leave after capturing him. Determined to find answers, Thomas stabs himself with the Griever's poison to remember his past. Teresa uses the second syringe to heal him. When he wakes up, Thomas remembers everything. He and Teresa were part of the organization that created the maze. The maze was a test and they were involved in designing it. Long ago when they were children the organization gave them puzzles to solve to study their intelligence. One by one the older boys started disappearing, beginning with Albie. That is when Thomas realized they were being sent into the maze. Gally believes Thomas is responsible for everything. He tries to execute him but the other boys stop him. Most of the boys decide to follow Thomas into the maze's escape route. They reach a laboratory filled with dead scientists. A video recording plays showing a woman named Ava Page who works for WCKD. She explains that the world has been destroyed by powerful solar flares, followed by a deadly disease that attacks the brain. WCKD created the maze to study young people who were naturally immune to the virus, hoping to find a cure. At the end of the video, Ava Page appears to shoot herself as armed men storm the lab. Suddenly, Glade appears holding a gun. He has been stung by a Griever and is not thinking clearly. He insists that they must stay in the maze and refuses to let them leave. He points the gun at Thomas and fires. But before the bullet can hit Thomas, Chuck, one of the younger boys, jumps in front of him and takes the shot, sacrificing himself. Miho immediately throws a spear at Glade, killing him. Just then, a group of armed men in masks enters the lab. They take the remaining boys away and put them into a helicopter. Thomas resists but is forced to go with them. As they fly over the maze, they see that it is inside a massive desert. In the distance, they spot a ruined city buried under sand. Meanwhile, back at the lab, the scientists who were thought to be dead are actually alive. They say the experiment was a success. The survivors have now entered phase 2 of the test. Subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to bring more movie recaps for you.